if I'm comparing it like what it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that today, if you have the idea and you want actually to create the company, you want to build a product, or not just a product, you want to deliver to customers, you want to build a company, the price, the cost of doing it is like 90% less than it was, let's say, in 2009. So why it happens? First of all, because of the cloud revolution. So today you have everyone can rapidly create a needed infrastructure for delivering a scalable service at almost at anything.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Business Roundtable podcast show. This is a podcast show dedicated to shining a spotlight on tech innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and the compelling narratives behind the movements they've established. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I'm hosting today's discussion from Startup to Exit, Lessons in Tech Entrepreneurship with Alexey Sapozhnikov. Alexey, thank you so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're recording for Alexey on like a Friday evening, and he says to me when we get started, I said, thanks for joining. What time is it there? It's Friday night. And he goes, oh, I've got like 6 more meetings after this. Well, this is just the start of the day. I think if anything defines the life of an entrepreneur, that's it, right? It's Friday night. There's no going out and having a great time. It's like, oh, this is just another one of my meetings in the day, right? So, Alexey, I know with your busy schedule, it's I appreciate so much for you to be able to fit us in here. And for our audience, I want to kind of sing Alexey's praises a little bit here because there are many praises to be sung. He is a serial entrepreneur with 2 exits that have raised over $35 million. He has a technology and vision executive with exceptional leadership track record. He builds highly capable organizations and tight deadlines, very focused on milestones, revenue, growth targets, all the key things that we're going to talk about in controlling complex business operations. 20 years of launching and directing cutting-edge, large-scale technology production practices, delivering 6, 7-figure engagements. He is an author and a creator of the first Israeli generative AI enterprise-grade product, adopted by several Fortune 100 global companies. I mean, when you have that in your portfolio, I think that speaks to just how strong you are at scaling, building something with the market and the customer in mind. I think we could go on. An author, co-author of several software patents. Frost & Sullivan 2018 Cloud Innovation Award winner. He's co-founded several startups as a CTO and a board member. Again, we could go forever. I'm not going to sing much longer here because I think you could do a better job than I could. But give us a bit of a background if there's anything more to fill in there on your that you'd like to touch on.
That's in brief. That's it.
There we go. Then you know what? Let's jump right into it, Alexey. And I'd love to just get a little bit into the tech industry, the landscape. Ever evolving. It is at a time now where we thought in the early 2000s and the early 90s was this peak. And now I think we're at this rapid adoption with AI, generative AI, a lot going on. Maybe you can share a little bit about your journey as a tech entrepreneur and how you've been able to navigate, all of those dynamic spikes in the tech business world.
So first of all, thank you. And you're completely right. I think we are today in kind of new cycle that is starting, like you said, with within the new AI hype and, and the total adoption of generative AI across the globe. I think we are just in the beginning of this cycle. And I think that, majority of entrepreneurs and the startups and the products that I see today, they I would say they are all very advanced in the domain of providing AI infrastructure, which is very good and promising. But in using of AI itself for the analytical, generative analytical purposes, I think we are still in the beginning. The AI technology itself is evolving and being constantly improving by the flagmans of the market, the pioneers of the market, like OpenAI and the additional giants. But I think we are still in the very early days of this paradigm, and definitely many entrepreneurs that before would never have some experience with data analysis, with building AI models based on the data analysis, are now driving to this direction and trying to build some products which is bringing you a new form of insights. Now, you're right. It's not new. Like I think all of us, we in the last 20 years, we actually were evident to multiple peaks and cycles. For example, the internet, and multiple technologies based on it, and the mobile revolution, the iPhone, the enterprise things. So, we saw several hypes that are coming from various technological innovation. But I think that today we are evident to something very big. And my opinion, my impression that this is, I'm very optimistic about the future of AI. I think that we hear various concerns like maybe it can eliminate the jobs, maybe it can, jeopardize, maybe it's dangerous. So I'm very optimistic about it, and I think that it's the progress, the technological progress in the history of humanity eventually always lead to something better. So that's my opinion.
I think that's a great, great kind of background and crystal ball future look too. You tied everything together there beautifully for us there. And, I think, again, we want to talk about, given your incredible experience, you've seen, you started up, you've exited, you've seen kind of both ends of this, you've navigated tech ecosystems, but I guess let's start with like that building block. And you kind of touched on a little bit already of the unique challenges in founding a tech startup and all that exists. When you're doing it, and right now, again, you're in, well, it's not stealth anymore. You're like semi-stealth mode of where you are, right? Is how you said.
Semi-stealth mode.
There you go. The key considerations and challenges you faced when founding these tech startups. And I guess in today's, like you said, the environment's changing rapidly. What does today's space look like for founding and scaling a tech startup?
So that's a great point. And I think that, the big and even I can define it as a huge good news that we have today, if I'm comparing it like what it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that today, if you have the idea and you want actually to create the company, you want to build a product, you want not just a product, you want to deliver to customers, you want to build a company. The price, the cost of doing it is like 90% less than it was, let's say, in 2009. So why it happens? First of all, because of the cloud revolution. So today you have the infrastructure resources that only, like 10, 11 years ago was very basic. So today everyone can rapidly create a needed infrastructure for delivering a scalable, service at almost at anything. And even, on top of it, you have low code and no code automation platforms. So the journey to getting feedback from the customer from your MVP is actually very fast. In addition to it, just in the previous year, we had this ChatGPT revolution, which I think the main point, for example, for I see it as a great helper to startup entrepreneurs, is not to connect your products to ChatGPT and use it, because that's I don't know. We are not doing it. All of our models are proprietary. We are not sharing the customer data, not with ChatGPT, not with everything. But the ability of ChatGPT to help your programmers to generate the complex structures of the code is actually also very helping. And all that is actually bringing you to the situation when if you want to deliver, the technological product, it's like much, much, much faster. However, the idea of finding the right pain, the idea of finding the right problem that is worse for you to deal with, still same position like it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and the rules here are always the same rule. If you are building the B2B product, number one thing that should be done is not to starting to building some MVP or something like that. Is actually to talk and to interview your potential customers to see how much the pain is big, understand exactly where your idea should be pivoted. And by the way, I can disclose, by at any case, and in every case that I have some idea and I started to talk with the potential customers, they pivoted me like 1,000 degrees, around myself until I really understood where is a really big pain point that probably it was to check and it was to deal with. So that part is actually the same. However, once you find this sweet spot, this crystal ball, like you said, to address the way to provide some MVP for this crystal ball is like much more fast and much more powerful than we experienced it like 11 years ago.
So when you were talking about that, I think, like you said, that's a great point, right? You got to really focus on not just market, but you got to have a customer-centric approach. You got to understand what problem you're trying to solve, right? Don't try and solve all of the world's problems in one product because you're going to get drowned out, right? Like you want to solve a specific, that same thing of what am I best at in the world? And that's what I can bring to the table, right? It's got to be in that product thought, or that service thought that you're bringing forward as well. With that, like you said, once it clicks, do you find now, because it's so fast with, again, like you said, the technologies that you can help with every part of your business, not just building product, but building HR teams or building, leadership teams and things like that. How do you prepare for that really rapid scalability? Like once it clicks and you go, okay, it's go time. We got to go now, right? You can't just stay in that same mode. It accelerates fast, doesn't it? And like, there's got to be a good amount of preparation that needs to be done.
So that's a superb question. And I think the main point, the true differentiator that we have as an experienced entrepreneur at this point is that, look, every founder, once he actually discovered this problem and he knows how to solve it and he knows what he actually need to do, the question that this person should ask is actually, do I want to build this company as a company who is VC-backed, or this should be a bootstrap business, a bootstrap startup, which today is growing like that. And again, we are talking to someone who raised money from VCs, during the last 15 years. Before it, I had, like you said, I had a service company, which was completely bootstrap. And today, my product startup that we are advancing in the field of security, cybersecurity, and AI, we actually are bootstrapping this step. We invested ourselves, by now, but the startup is already profitable. So the question is what I want to do, which one of those two directions should I take? Now, the issue is that not every product can be bootstrapped. And not every technology can be bootstrapped. So if you want to start very lean and to arrive to some initial profitability and grow it as a company which is profitable and bootstrap. This is one way. In this case, until you have these big growth of the personnel and you really need to take care about the growth issues and company culture and all this stuff, you have time. And in this case, you can build it slowly and you can actually address those issues gradually. Case when you are raising a money from investors and you are starting from the point that you are building and growing very quickly because that is your product, that is your business, that is your business model. This is a tremendous challenge for every entrepreneur. And, putting in zero time, multiple people together, building a company culture. I have a friend who is a great entrepreneur living now in San Francisco, also from Israel, moved to San Francisco, also in cybersecurity. So he talked to me once that a company culture, Alexey, is like a tornado in this essence. So if you are close to the center of tornado, if you are close to company culture, you are staying, with the tornado. But if you are going out from if you are distancing from the center of the tornado, the tornado is like throwing you off. So that is something that is very challenging once the company, exactly in the beginning have the huge, growth because it's like that. That's what should be done. And I think number one challenge in this point is to build a company culture and the company values. Because if everyone is actually aligned with the company culture and company values, that's what promising that everything will, sounds as a good music.
That is such an incredible point to talk about there. I'm totally stealing that analogy because I love that idea of like you're in the middle of, you're in the eye of the tornado or the eye of the hurricane. It's calm, it's blue skies, it's fine. And then if you're around it, you're getting destroyed if you're not a part of it, right? So I think with that, I want to ask a bit more about that because I think again, tech leadership, team dynamics, absolutely crucial. We're in an area that you need to foster innovation. You need to foster collaboration within these teams. And you have to build a really solid team around you. Again, as you scale, this is going to be a very key point. You're going to have people who are with you from the long haul, but you're going to have to attract new talent that understands, that's resilient, that wants to grow with you. So when you're doing that, I'm going to ask you the really easy question. How? It's the hardest question, but it's one word for me, so it's easy. How? What kind of qualities are crucial for these teams to lead successful organizations?
So that's a super point, and I think that when we are building a startup, I think like to be in the startup. Before I actually became an entrepreneur, I started my working journey as an employee in one of the greatest startup in Israel. I don't know if people remember today, but it was a startup called Exact in I think 97, 98. Great startup led by two superb entrepreneurs. And I was a young guy. I think, after the army, so I was like 24 years old. So this feeling of moving things fast, doing great, great technological things, be able to handle serious projects. That's what infected me and for my whole life. But let's understand that this is a good start of startup. This is a wonderful benefit of being, a person who is working for stuff. However, together with it, like in every society, together with benefits, we also have commitments. And I can be with you very honest. When we had this my previous company, and I interviewed people, for my technological department. Many times I saw something that I define as a human tragedy. I see a brilliant, experts that cannot work in the startup because of technologically, engineering wise, they are superb. Okay, they're great. But to be able to move fast, if we are working, let's be honest, if we are talking about work-life balance, sometimes in startup you don't have hours.
Yeah.
So you need to work. And people probably have commitments, outside of the work, so they cannot give their commitment to this. So and because of it, they forced to stay in some legacy companies that are not providing to their careers, to what they want to do, immediate challenges. And this is what I called human tragedy this way. So that's
Yeah.
so in essence, in one sentence, if you are choosing the right person for your teams at any level, okay, senior members, junior members, that's what promise you that things will play together.
Yeah, I actually was talking with somebody before about this, and they said
Yeah.
before you ever get started, you need to know, number one, what your passion is not what you're going to be doing, right? So if you're like, I'm a developer, I'm an engineer, you're not going to be a developer and engineer anymore. You're going to do it to a certain point, and then you're going to be running a business, right? And you're hands off. So you have to be comfortable with that, because people a lot of time, I'm going to do what I love. Don't start your own company then, because you're going to be doing stuff that you might not love. And number two, I love that point. When you're identifying the right people, when you're talking to these people, they need to go, and you as a founder need to go. If you've got a family, you need to interview with them. You need to talk to them and go, here's what we're in for, right? Because like you said, it takes a totally different level of commitment and balance. And again, here's Alexey on a Friday night going, yeah, I'm doing a podcast and I'm doing a whole bunch of meetings, and that's what it is. So you've got to understand that your life is flipped upside down, but the benefits can be amazing, and the personal fulfillment and the goal accomplishments is just a high that I don't think you get from anything else except entrepreneurship, right? So that's incredible, and I love your take on that and building that leadership, finding the right people, things along that line. Pivoting slightly here, kind of the same thing, I guess, in some sense, but, tech ecosystems, especially today, again, you're not trying to solve the world's problems. You're trying to solve a pain point and really do it. That, as you mentioned, involves partnerships, collaborations, complex networks, growing that, right? So for you, obviously something you're incredibly strong at. How do you approach building and leveraging relationships within the tech industry?
Listen, from my perspective, the making a business and building the sales operations and building the partnership operations, this is number one, mission. Everything everything is actually based on the personal relationship. And to develop those personal slash business relationship is actually is number one mission for every CEO in startup industry. What I'm trying to do and what I'm my way to do it, I love to voluntary help to young entrepreneurs. I'm mentor in several accelerators, absolutely voluntary, have no strings attached, no equity, nothing, just I'm always glad to help to someone, because what I think that if someone can learn from mistakes of other person, that's a huge benefit. That's a huge leverage, because unfortunately in my journey, many mistakes I did it on myself, and not many mentors could the time prevent it. But if I can save someone from making some mistakes in business and some mistakes in the entrepreneurial journey, I think that's a great benefit.
Yeah, I think, and that's, you can tell, again, here you are giving me your time, to do this. You're giving our listeners your time to do this. So there's definitely a selflessness that, great leaders have. And I think, again, we can see it with you, Alexey, and I appreciate that. I want to kind of, cover a couple more little things here before we go, because I think there's so much to go through and we're fast forwarding so fast.
Okay.
Let's talk about scalability. Can we again, you're in semi-stealth mode, so I don't want to give up too much here. But at the same time, I know this was
Yeah.
something you had touched on. We had our,
Yeah.
our lead into this was you're really focused on this new project, on the ability to scale and
Yeah.
help that rapid scale because
Yeah.
founders, again, you hit this mark where you're like, okay, now what? I'm not an HR person. I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I'm not a whatever. So you need to be able to scale in pillars and in areas that you have little to almost no expertise in. So give me your take on that a little bit here and what again, if you want to talk a little bit about what you're personally doing and why, that's great, but also your take on that ability to scale up in areas that you really just don't know about.
Oh, okay. So look,
I send you all the loaded questions, Alexey. I give you big, heavy ones.
So look, you're absolutely right. So you said that we are in semi-stealth mode. That's right. We still didn't make any big announcements, but we are a startup after 10 months of running and already have big customers and states in Canada, in Europe, in the domain of cyber and domain of compliance and privacy, in domain of HR. So, my way to build those things is actually based on two things, on two principles. First of all, I'm trying to build, the whole organization correctly from the very beginning. So once I need to scale, this is basically should be an organic growth of the organization and not rebuilding and restructuring and and changing the roles and all this stuff. So that's one. Number two, and this is really a challenging question, is the question like when should I delegate a position and and in the life of a bootstrap company it makes it when we should invest our money and hire a specialist for this position or promote an internal person to this position for actually providing the needed expertise and where we are done without expertise on this period. So, for example, in HR, what I'm doing, once we have like 15, 15 employees, that is a very concrete number that we need an HR person. Okay, so I know about some people that are bringing HR person, after this number and before this number. That's my number that I feel that this is a number that already requires an HR person and the management. One founder or two founders cannot handle it by themselves.
Yeah.
The same issue is about, for example, customer success. When you need to bring a figure, for this position, the support. Also, the questions of growth. So, in some numbers, you should delegate. Even if you feel that you are okay, you should delegate.
I like that. Yeah. And I think it's so important, right? Eventually you have to let go, right? And that's the hard part is letting go of and trusting somebody else. But as you mentioned, when you're talking about building a team, if you do it right, you focus on the right parts of it, you do it in the right sensible order, don't just delegate off the stuff you don't like to do. I mean, it's important to do that, but if there's bigger things to do, get those people in place first and do it in the right order and things like that. Let's just, it's in the title. I know we're starting to run long. I warned you I was going to take time here and I was going to go over time. And here we are. We're probably starting to go over time. It's in the title, From Startup to Exit. And I know startups, its whole thing, exit is its whole series of podcast episodes on its own. So there's acquisitions, there's IPOs, there's all sorts of different forms and everything else. I don't want to dive too far into those, but maybe just some advice you would give to tech founders who are strategically planning for exits in today's market around, again, what does that strategy and timing look like? And when do you start that planning process? Does that start when you go, okay, now I want to start the exit? Or is it like when you're founding and you're going up, you go, okay, here's where I'm going to start considering it and start putting all the pieces in a row for it? What's your strategy?
So my strategy, my personal view of this is that anyone who is planning for exit, this is not a good way to plan things.
Okay.
I think that the best way to plan things is to build a sustainable, business flow, sustainable company that have a profitability that or can go at any moment to profitability. The company that are really solving the problem, that found the PMF, the product market fit. This is not an easy task. And I think that the whole deal about the exit offers and the proposition to acquire the company, proposition to make something together is inevitably coming if you are achieving those goals. So it's not the trunk that is it's not the tail that is should move the duck, but it's a duck that should move the tail. So that's I think it's a point. So if you are the founder, if you're concentrating on your journey, on delivering the best quality product to your customers, maybe I'm wrong, but I think for 100%, you will get the exit offers and you should not chase after.
I love it. That's fantastic advice. I really like that strategy, that thought process. Again, don't start with the end in mind necessarily all the time, right? The end will present itself to you because you don't know what that end could be depending on how you're growing, how
Exactly.
you're scaling, how you pivot,
Exactly.
right? Again, as you find that product market fit, it's different than day one. So that's wonderful advice from that. I got a couple more for you, and then I promise I'm gonna I'll end this and wrap it up. But I'm
Yes,
enjoying this
yes,
way
yes.
too much, Alexey. So that's why I want to get a little bit more here. But let's kind of, as we're closing off here, the future of tech entrepreneurship is filled with challenges, and I think there's numerous, but right, talent acquisition is challenging because again,
Yeah,
it's getting people are very competitive in this market
yeah,
saturation because again, people can go to market so much faster now.
yeah,
What wasn't there yesterday is there today, where you went,
yeah.
where did that come from, right? Regulatory changes are coming into effect more and more and more, especially in
Yes,
AI and stuff
yes.
like that. How do you, as a tech founder, proactively address these challenges and get prepared? And I know there's a lot of different challenges there, so we don't have to get granular, but just kind of some of those thought process that goes through your mind to be adaptable and ready.
So that is a superb. Those are superb questions, and I would say that the most important part is okay. The question that I'm asking is okay. How big is my market? Okay, because if my market is big enough, the competition that is coming, maybe it's a good thing. Okay, so that's so even if the speed of someone new who is appearing in this market uh, is fast. Okay, maybe I don't think this is a bad idea that it will be some competitor to your company and you will be you will compete with someone. So I don't think this is a problem. But the real problem is that what is the size of the market? What's the TAM, total addressable market this specific domain? Because if TAM is not big, then the problem, that you started. So this is a question that I'm always thinking about. Now, regarding the thing about bringing the talent and and retaining the talent and additional things, I think if you are building something which is feeling, have the great atmosphere, that you're providing a benefit. One thing you cannot do, you cannot compete with the big giants with the salaries of people. That's what you cannot do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you cannot compete with Amazon or with Google with the salaries that you are paying to. The only thing that you can actually compete is to give them to people more freedom, more potential for their self development, self uh, you know uh, self-representation in this methodology, in marketing, in sales, and all this stuff. So that is your key competitor advantage in this job. So that's my answer.
I think that's incredible. With that, Alexey, we're going to kind of wind down here. So I want to give you one last chance here as well. I'm sure our audience is just waiting for, anything more, but a piece of advice for aspiring tech founders or based on your experience, any final reflections or insights that you want to share as we transition out of this episode?
Thank you, Ryan. And I would say, one thing that I would advise if anyone needs advice, I would advise to tech entrepreneurs is be not pessimistically, but be realistically, brutally honest with yourself about where you are, okay? Yeah. About what's going on, about where is your key strengths, about where is your product key strengths, about where is your company key strengths, what doesn't work, what yes work. Like, don't be calm, don't be self-calming. Be brutally honest in the end of each day about how you are advancing. If you are not advancing, if you are yes advancing, like improve the points that should be improved.
That is an unbelievable piece of advice to take away and a great kind of last summary piece here, right? When we're talking from startup to exit, that is the key. You got to know where you are and you got to be comfortable with beating yourself up a little bit. Don't be, like you said, don't be pessimistic. Don't go doomsday on yourself, but be realistic. Really take a good look at what you have, and track that growth and or lack of growth so that you can make those changes that are critical, right? So exactly. Alexey, I got to thank you so much for this episode. This was absolutely incredible, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to have many more of these to come because I think you're just a wealth of knowledge. Based on that, you did mention, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, you did mention that you are a resource to people as well. For people that want to follow your journey, people that want to get connected to you, Alexey, what's the way to do that for them, for our listeners?
No, we are my Twitter. I think it's the best way. People can write me to LinkedIn or in Twitter. I think that's the best way.
Perfect. Excellent. We'll get that into the show notes here so that people are able to connect with Alexey. And I want to thank you again, Alexey, for your time today.
Thank you, Ryan.
For this episode. This was an incredible episode. There was so much to take away here. Let's do this again. Don't be a stranger.
No, for sure. Anytime, Ryan.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, with that, I'll take this final minute to thank Alexey Sapozhnikov for this amazing podcast from startup to exit, lessons in tech entrepreneurship. And I want to thank our listeners. We can't do what we do without you. And until we meet again with another amazing TBR episode, I'm your host, Ryan Davies. Thank you and take care, everybody.